Hi everyone, Jasper Basson here, founder of Dryk Holdings and the financial director of Lead Optimizer. This episode is again for startup entrepreneurs, giving you some habits and tools of fellow entrepreneurs that I know and I get to know along my path. So today I'm with Grant Jackson. Thank you very much for talking to me, and I'm going to give you the opportunity to talk about your business and what your passion and what you do.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me along to your show. Just very simply, what I do might be traditionally called a business advisor or business coach, but I think the way I like to see it is being something more of a navigator, where business owners have a particular objective, they want to achieve a particular destination, and my role really is to help them go from where they are currently to the level of success that they want to achieve by following the shortest route possible.
The two of us just spoke about business valuations and all those kind of things, and you mentioned something that when a company or a business owner do know his value of his business, he can start thinking from the other side, from the buyer's point of view. Can we just elaborate a bit on that again for me?
Certainly. Well, when it comes to selling a business, a buyer of the business is going to look at the business and look for very specific things that they want to see in the business. And where those things are very good for the business, they're prepared to pay a better price than if those things are missing. And so what I try to do is encourage business owners right from the beginning is to think like a potential buyer, and think about the things that they would like to see in that business if they were buying it, and then set about building those things within their own business. Not only do they get the benefit of a better value business when it comes to selling it, but they get the benefit of those fundamentals within the business while they continue to run the business. So it serves them twice. You know, it's you can have your cake and eat it.
Yes, it's a very good insight. It's a very good point that I can take out from today as well. Being an entrepreneur, I mean, you've been in business for many years. Like I said, this whole webinar series is for startup entrepreneurs, helping guys that's been in employment to being a startup entrepreneur, or merely just better himself as an entrepreneur, someone that's already an entrepreneur. So, are there I believe in morning rituals. Do you have any morning or evening rituals that you do to start the day or settling down on the end of the day?
Well, one of my morning rituals, I think, from a business point of view, is emails. The emails that I write, if they're quite lengthy and quite important, I tend to write them during the course of the previous day. And the first thing the next morning, I will read those emails again, just to get an idea that I still kind of understand what I was trying to say. In other words, I'm seeing it from a different perspective, and then I send it. So generally all my emails that everybody receives will be somewhere between 8 and 8:30, albeit that I've actually written it the day before. So that's kind of a thing where simply writing the emails, maybe it might take a day or two depending on the complexity of it, but then I just have a quick squiz once more just before I send it, but from a different perspective, not quite at the time that I wrote the email. So that's something that I found very useful, because having gone through the email, I might find things that suddenly I'm not clear on what it was that I was trying to say. And certainly the person who's reading it from the outside is going to be even more confused, and I've found that works quite well.
I like to wake up in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, set my days, all my days up very beautifully, take from 4:30 to 6 o'clock in the morning, and just being me, doing various rituals. Do you also wake up early in the morning, or are you more evening owl?
Well, I tend to be both. I'm one of those that I can work quite well late in the evening when there isn't any distractions, but I do like to get up early. I get up around 5 or 5:30 depending, and there's a number of things. I do some yoga and some exercise and stretching first thing in the morning, just to get the blood flowing. I play some guitar. I play in a band, so I like to play guitar, and that kind of gets just gets that creative side going, and then just give some thought to my day as to what I want to achieve. It's not as if I'm thinking about those things for the first time. I've thought about already what I've scheduled for the day, but it's just about quickly running through it in my mind and just getting a vision of having completed all the tasks that I'd like to achieve for the day. I'll just run through that and just be clear on what it is that I want to have done by the time the day is finished.
As with me, I'm sure your day is full of numbers, and and thinking. And to settle down, I have also certain rituals that just to get me in a state of more a sleeping mode and to stop thinking so much.
Yes.
Almost when I say.
Yes, that's quite a tricky transition to make.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you, like myself, to give an example, I use certain herbal teas just to relax. I don't spend time on my phone, kind of thing. Do you have any specific rituals that you use just to try to settle down?
Well, one of the interesting things is which is I kind of discovered having moved out and living in Komiki, is that generally when I'm seeing clients, it's usually in the more industrial areas, and I'm having to take a long drive back home. And just simply that drive, coming over Oudtshoorn and getting into Komiki, that alone is quite a relaxing process. And I quite enjoy the drive, and there's some amazing scenes as I come over the mountain. So that I enjoy. And then what I try to get in as often as I can is just a walk around, the area where I stay. It's around a lake, and there's birds and sounds and all kinds of things that take place. So that kind of walk, I guess it's the long, consistent tasks that don't involve much thinking, like driving. Maybe that's not a good thing to say, but you can kind of go on autopilot. And then also the walks. That's what I find works well for me to relax and just sort of zone, get into a different zone from the work and the complexity and the thinking. Because if I don't do that, then my brain doesn't shut down. And then you just find yourself a little bit more fatigued the following day when you have to start again.
I also tend to like the nature walks. We just talked about it quickly before we start as well. And there's something like called forest bathing.
Okay.
And that's pretty much be just relaxed in nature and all kinds of happy hormones that releases from your brain. So it's there's definitely method behind that madness.
Yes. Well, one of the analogies that I often use for clients is that they like woodcutters that don't have time to sharpen their blades, and it's taking longer and longer to cut down trees simply because their blades are sharp, are blunt, and they're not as sharp as they should be. And the analogy there is that whether it's just to take time out to relax, or whether it's to build a time and a space to be able to do certain things, like think about the future or think about what you want your business to achieve, you need to take that time out. And the idea that there's not enough time to take it out is going to work against you in much the same way as blunt blades are eventually going to work against you. So whether it's identifying an opportunity during the day or during the month or during the year where you want to take time away from the usual tasks that you're doing, and it's either an opportunity to relax or it's an opportunity to think differently about what you want to achieve in the future, it's a very necessary activity to engage in.
On this great tips, any advice for startup entrepreneurs, something when they step into that, almost want to say circus of entrepreneurship, any advice to them to start changing their habits from being an employee to an employer, or at the most a startup entrepreneur?
I think one of the most difficult things for an entrepreneur is that it's in some ways the sky's the limit in terms of what it is that you want to do. When you give somebody a very clear set of instructions, it's a lot easier to gain traction in terms of action than when somebody hands you a blank piece of paper and says, right, you can come up with anything that you want to. It's a lot more difficult to deal with the more creative things and putting yourself out there in terms of your own personality. It's a lot easier to deal with a crisis. Something goes wrong in the factory or a supplier is not delivering. And I think that's the part that separates a true entrepreneur from an employee, is that ability to break away from the routine and the crises, and to just dream about what the future may look like, and to see yourself being a part of that future and creating that future. It's a nerve-wracking process, but it's the most, I think, important process for an entrepreneur, and certainly one to be successful, is just to dream about the future. And I don't think entrepreneurs spend enough time thinking about the future. And it's it's where the action is going to happen. There's a lot less competition in the future, so that's where you need to give it some thought.
Same for books that you've read in the past. Maybe give me 2 examples of books that you've read. One for more specific for a startup entrepreneur, and then one bit more advanced for an entrepreneur that's been in there a while.
I can't think of any particular titles, but certainly books that I found most useful are the biographies. When you're either dealing with a particular individual or a particular company. The Body Shop is one that comes to mind, Anita Roddick, and just how some of the difficult situations that she found herself in actually created the company that she ended up developing. And an example of that was there was the space that she managed to rent was relatively cheap simply because of the mold that was on the walls, and the only color paint that could disguise the mold was a kind of green and brown combination, and that eventually became the corporate colors of the Body Shop. So in some respects, you can read a book that gives you the 10 points of how to do X, Y, and Z, and you might remember it, you might not. But when you read how somebody else went through the process, certain things begin to resonate slightly differently than a 10-point checklist. And I think that those are the most useful for an entrepreneur. I must caution people, though, in that often the books about entrepreneurs achieving success are the outliers. One of the things, for example, is that entrepreneurs, one of the contributors to failure is that they're not comfortable with the language of business, which is finance, and how to understand, reading income statements and balance sheets. And you will have certain entrepreneurs being celebrated for being naive of finances, and Richard Branson is one of those. And everybody says, well, you see, Richard Branson is successful, and he didn't understand how all of those things work. Well, there are many other Richard Bransons out there that we don't know about because they didn't achieve the success. He is an outlier. I'm not to say he doesn't have the skill. Of course he does. But don't fall into the trap of thinking that what worked for one particular entrepreneur is necessarily going to work for you. You can get inspiration from some of the things that they talk about, but generally you still have to do the basics. You still have to get the basics right. You have to have control. You have to have a financial control, budgets, various things that you would tell a client. You still need to go through that process and do that, but certainly gain the inspiration from how, which is more often the case, entrepreneurs were able to turn adversity into a plus for their particular business or their particular brand.
A well-known guy always say, don't be a follower, just be a student. So again, it's exactly what you said. Read the books, take the good out of it, but don't necessarily be a follower, just be a student of the information that there is.
Yes.
Apply your mind to it.
Absolutely, and of course use that opportunity to find out who you are. I think one of the things that entrepreneurs make a mistake on, particularly when they start their business, is that they want to be all things to all people. And that inevitably leads to a situation where you're servicing some people less than what they are looking for, and you're servicing others more than what they're looking for. And as a result of that, you just appear to be a very expensive company. What you want to do is focus on a particular group of people and deliver a service that's focused on that particular group. And that way you're more likely to be cost effective and seen as being value for money. But the trick behind that is to know who you are and what you stand for, and allow that to come through in your business. So while you, as you say, you can take inspiration from everybody, don't let it cloud or block who it is that you are and what your personality is, and prevent that from coming through to your business. That's what you must do. Your business must be an extension of your own personality.
Lastly, in the world where smartphones and apps is all around us, I know most entrepreneurs tend to start taking it from their phones and to live a sort of a slower lifestyle, slow movement. Any apps that serve you well for your business?
Well, I think, I'm not sure if it's necessarily an app, but I live on Google. I make a point of knowing things. And there is no reason to claim ignorance of anything today with things like Google or Wikipedia or anything like that, where there's lots of good information. There's lots of bad information as well. But you can generally tell the good from the bad, and that's part of the skills I think you need to develop as an entrepreneur, is to know what you can follow and what not. But I believe that if there's anything that, I have a bit of a reputation where people say, Jesus, if there's anything that's going to be done, Grant will Google it. And the answer is yes, because I like to do it properly and I like to have an idea. And even if it just means me being better equipped to ask people the right questions who do know what they're talking about, I feel a lot more empowered with the information that's available out there. And so I make use of it. So Google is one of my best friends.
Thank you very much for your great insights today. It's very good insights that I also can take from today, spending the morning with you.
Thank you very much. It's been most enjoyable to be here.
Awesome. And where can people find you?
Well, the name of my company is Stone Soup Consulting, and I have a website which they can reach, and it's got all my contact details there. And if they want to drop me an email, it's grantj@stonesoupconsulting.co.za. And if they have any questions or just want to chat, I'm very interested to see how businesses start and how they evolve and how they develop, and whether it is that I can service somebody or not, it doesn't change the fact that I have an interest in how businesses develop. And so if somebody wants to share some ideas, ask some questions, tell me about their journey, I'd love to hear from them.
Awesome. Thank you very much
Great.
for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.